that we know, the individuals you know within the companies, etc. I think that, that's clearly a value. That's what we would consider that value. I think then in terms of the sort of the process of, the sales process that we go through, I think would also, what we would be bringing, business development, sales process. And then there's also marketing, brand management and marketing strategy that we can bring in as well. It again depends on where we want to use it and how we want to use it, but that's another capability that we would have that we can bring.
Sure, for sure.
Okay.
And
the analysis, what sort of analysis, what sort of strategies we might want to look at, what processes and approaches that we would take from a marketing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because marketing should be basically, that should be providing the leads, as it were. The marketing, if we've done the marketing correct, when we've done the analysis correct, and we've done the segmentation of the market
the
correct,
closing will be correct.
we brought that all together. That should be a tool by which it then says to the sales team, right, you need to go and talk to this customer.
Mm-hmm.
Identified, or a company has been identified as having, the opportunity for us to engage in, because what you don't want to do is be talking to the wrong companies with the wrong people about something which they don't want. It's just wasted everybody's time, and we haven't got time.
Exactly.
What we want to do is we want to talk to the right companies, the right opportunities,
yes,
who are in the right markets, and our decision makers in those processes. And as I say, that's why I think the scalability aspect of it is. So it's working in the scalable volume applications where data is a real challenge for these companies to manage.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can, like I was saying with regards to SIBO, I can see what SIBO's doing. They're working in this manufacturing space. So for companies that are manufacturing, lots of product, global brands, multiple products, and are really focused on how profitable they can make those processes. Now, anybody who comes along and says, "Hey, I can make an improvement of, let's say, 1% or 2%, whatever the percentage is, 1%, 2%, 0.5%, on hundreds of millions of units," that's of interest to them, because they know they're not running those production lines. They'd like to run them at 100%, but they're not.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing.
That insight is really valuable to them, and it's the same, as you say, it's the same in these other markets that we've touched on,
mm-hmm.
where there is sufficient volume of customer. They understand that it can be more efficient in their processes, and they know their processes aren't efficient.
Yeah.
Because that's why, as we were talking about in the call last week, regulator comes along, they've got to do an audit, and they go bring in, lots of people and resolve the problem of paperwork with people.
Yeah, I agree.
So you can directly say, well, actually, you wouldn't need to employ those 100 people at £20,000 each. So that £2 million you just spent for the 100,000, those 100 people that you've got working for you for, 1 year or half a year or whatever the period, you wouldn't need that, because, our solution would address that problem.
Mm.
You can make the correlation then between the costs which they're normally incurring, because they're just doing the same old.
Yeah.
They're not changing.
I agree.
They're just doing the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. So I think in that time, I think the questions you ask, I think we've been talking for some time. Now let's do this thing, right? So basically 3 areas I can look at for sure. Sales. Obviously, that is where your company, we can have the same kind of level of arrangement with like what we had with Geos, right? And obviously, an example, we work on some opportunities, and of course, if you think there's an opportunity, we can able to bring that to the table. And obviously, there will be kind of, I would say, value-add partnership where there will be some predefined, like a percentage what we have with other companies, like 5 to 20%, depends on the level of engagement, right? If it's a product sale or anything, and also it could be much bigger projects. Also, sometimes we don't know. Depends on, obviously, if it's a full project management, which means that obviously you guys will deliver the whole project. We'll be the technology company behind it, right? And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes they just write the product where you can sell the product, and obviously there will be licensing fee, and that's it, right? You don't need to manage people to do that. You have two simple options, right? And the same thing we have with other companies. I'm sure that is definitely it. And I'm sure I think there is definitely that is good service model what we have to be in likes of everyone else. And the investment angle is also something interesting, which is obviously your personal network, right? And like I propose to everyone in our business, obviously even Neil and everyone else, they can also bring investments from people, and there will be obviously the market kind of, the commission, like a percentage, whatever, based on the investment arrangements, right? Like 2% to 3%, which is kind of market rate, which is kind of on a fair note that obviously, that is obviously open to anyone, right? So kind of two broader levels at the end. I think what I can think of for sure, at least from our business to your business, that is Q, right, and also on the investments. And on the wider side, definitely, I think being we can also look at what are the gaps you think you can able to fill, and what is exactly what we have. That could be like coming to just listening to us, and maybe sometimes like opportunities like UK and Japan, right? So we got you involved because obviously on the research side, we have you on boarded for sure. That's the reason why I've got you from the day one, right? The investment, but the opportunity what we have, and the Japan call is tomorrow. And of course, I'm sure we'll make something with that opportunity as well. The lady, Deborah as well, she's equivalent to. She also knows the Japanese Research Association, NADO. Which is like she also is very aware of the Japanese research kind of opportunities and everything. That's where we got her involved. And that will be also good. I think either way, either from the UK or as well, Japan or maybe somewhere else, I'm sure your entity also will be really represented there as well. And see, as part of the whole ecosystem, right? Obviously, everyone has a part in play. That could be, like you said before, you did the market analysis or maybe something like the end user arrangements, whatever it is, right? This profession, I think, is never ending, right? He's all the time writing papers, right? So and I'm sure, I think we have a good probability of actually having success there. And I think this is all I'm talking about. That is also another angle about research side for sure. We get you involved, your company, and also that's what we got you there. And I have three different angles I'm kind of thinking of right now, at least in immediate ones.
Another approach I was thinking as well was in terms of obviously commercially for us. Then I think if we were able to secure some equity in the business, then that would be of interest to us, of course, because like I said, what we would be bringing is basically meetings with and engagement with companies, ones that we identify we wanted to talk to, of course, like I said, that analysis in terms of the sectors and the strategic piece that Neil was referring to the week. I think it's then bringing those companies and those individuals into the conversation, into the engagement with AI Infinity, is where we see the significant amount of the value that we can bring to the company. Like I said, we want to be talking to the right people at the right time, who are the right organizations to be talking with, and not to be wasting any time talking to companies that don't meet that criteria, as it were. So I think in terms of getting some ownership, like an equity element of the business would be of interest to us, because at the end of the day we've got sort of commercial constraints on ourselves, that if we're spending our time and energy working on opportunities, then we need to make sure that they're spent wisely, as it were, from a point of view of our time. So that would be something that would give us comfort that we were spending the time, in those dialogues, into those conversations, those meetings, knowing that, well, they were beneficial for us in the long run, because we've got some interest within the business, as it were.
Yeah, no,
for the business to succeed.
That's really great. I mean, thanks for bringing that up. Actually, that's really. I mean, I'm open for that as well, for sure. As a matter of fact, we have the similar kind of arrangement with Geos as well, although the person I know there. But of course, it's kind of similar thing that if they can able to bring some business, obviously, why not, right? Obviously, for sure. And that could be, we can also agree for a value, but that could be 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, and then that will be converted to that option as an equity, right? Not a problem. And yes, I think when a company comes in, it's a bit tricky that when obviously the shareholders also, the people who invest in, they should also understand, why this company had a preference and because they haven't put the money, right? So, and
the thing is that what we're bringing to it is, the companies, the individuals, within those companies.
Yes.
So that's the difference. That's, it's okay. We've got a solution. Let's say we've got a product or we've got a solution, and then we've understood the market. But then it's like, well, who is it? What relationships do we have with these companies in these particular market sectors that we've defined that we want to engage with? And are we engaging with the right level of individual in the organization?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I agree with you.
And
that's valuable.
Yeah, that's where the value is. Right, well, actually, we can get meetings with the directors or the chief executives of the companies, because we've got relationships with them, etc., etc.
Exactly. I think decision makers, right? I think at the end of the day, it has to be like tangible for both of us. For example, for you to make the sale happen, so that at least you can get the kickback in as well, something like based on the some revenue back for you based on the deal, right? And also, obviously,
that's right.
I get it.
If we make the investment now, then the return might come in, some period of time later, but we know we've got some assurance of a return that comes back to us because we've got,
share options. Yes, definitely.
Within the company.
Definitely. You know what? Just to be honest with you, Simon, this is a kind of options I kind of propose to everyone in a business, like Neil and also to Ian as well. But of course, unfortunately, Ian is not, obviously there today. But obviously, we cannot just wait for him, right? We said the same thing. If you bring some sales, obviously, there's a commission. If you bring investments, it's commission. Also, based on a 3 months evaluation time, it's the same thing. You can speak to Neil. You can speak to anyone in the business. That's the culture I wanted to create. Everyone in the same process, then there will be options decided based on the performance, right? It could be 0.5 or it could be 1. Depends on the technology versus the business, right? And the same process. Of course, we can also be open to that as well. This is where now that you express your options, why not? Let's talk about it. And either way, by long-term share options, also the short-term, each project-driven revenue options from the sales as well as investments. I'm sure the way I see is a long-term option, because obviously, there's no point of having a company 3 months and 6 months. After that, what is it, right? And I wanted to have a relationship with people like that, but obviously some people may come and some people may go, right? So, and with a business is far more beneficial rather than a person, isn't it? Yours is a business, and obviously it's an established business, and obviously the connections. You're a trustworthy person in obviously in the community where you are, and that makes sense actually. Why don't I do that? Sorry that it didn't happen with Deepak. So I will bring that also with Deepak, and I'll try to set up a call with him directly with you, and also perhaps maybe he needs to understand a few things also from your side, because he's the one who's actually talking to everyone, like even everyone in our business. So I think I give that responsibility for him because he's also in the governance council, right? And let's make it happen very soon. And like I said, I'm open. And we can able to make the connection. Also, we can also look at a way. I don't know. This is one thing I wanted to ask you. Like last time you mentioned, now you're doing 2 roles, right? One is at your company and Magic, right?
Yeah.
And is there no conflict of interest for you to associate, obviously, with any other companies? What you're doing, right?
No. There's obviously there's no issue there. No.
Okay, cool. I understand. And also, okay, fine. And then maybe we also can look at options of, once we start working on this kind of an options, right, then probably we'll see how you would like to also maybe be an active part of an advisory or something, which I mentioned last time. But I think that's also open.
It's just about a time and money thing. We're spending time, days, weeks, months, whatever, and if we're charging at typically 1,000 a day, if we're charging at 1,000 a day, then we've got to say, well, actually, if we're not getting 1,000 in a day, what are we getting? Well, we're getting some share in the business. Okay, well, that's a balance. It's sort of trading, isn't it? We're not getting that, then we're getting that. That works. Then
no, I agree. I mean, that's really great.
Bring that sort of network that we've got into the business. So it's very much sort of just commercial terms, really. Agreeing something that works for both parties. But,
definitely.
But I think this sort of shared business or stake in the business is clearly important, as it were.
Yes, I agree. And also, like I said, Simon, one other thing I was really asking you is that last time I'm sure you had a good sales and strategy background. And had you been a individual, an example, we could have actually have you as an advisory capacity, right? And directly. But now you're actively looking at two companies, and that is what something obviously we just wanted to see how we position as you as an individual. But obviously, from company to company, I think that's easy. And an example, this is where I think let's have a conversation, and then obviously we can finalize the terms, and obviously we can have an MOU, and we can have that commercial terms, and at least that way we both are clear. And I'm sure you will be happy. And if not, then obviously we can see the best way in between, right? Sure. And I think let's do a good longer, basically the opportunity where we can able to get the things moving, right? An example, which works both for us, because today it could be 5 million, like you said, in 5 years' time it will be maybe $1 billion, right? And 1% of a company. Yes, exactly. Why not? That's a trend for companies. And also, very quickly, three things happening for us. One is that we're setting up a US entity in very soon. Yeah. Because of the reasons of obviously having the traction in the US market. We have a lawyer from Palo Alto now assisting us in setting up a US entity. And we have the position whether we keep US as a global company or UK as a global company, but eventually US as a global company makes sense. We're doing that right now as a separate companies. And also the next thing is that we have this guy I mentioned, Moray, right? He also is a very interesting guy, which he sold his business before. He will be actively participating in the business in kind of other things as well. The third thing is actually the biggest one. I told to you about Raja Kumar, right? Did I send that to you? So he's actually coming, obviously, is a VC and a venture capital and also a private equity owner, right? In India. Yeah. He's been advising me indirectly, but he will come on as a professional advisor in the board, because obviously he has to get his consent from his board, right? He's my second line uncle, and they have made some significant investments in some companies, and obviously he's got access to some other really good investors, and also basically positioning the business, right, from VC perspective, right? How do you position that? That is valuable, right? I think a lot of interesting things are happening. Stay by. I'm sure. I think that the growth would be really we need to kick off. I think the most important thing right now is the sales, right? Let's please close of the sales, and these people will really come and actually can take us to the next level, right? Maybe significantly.
So he's a relative, yeah? You said he was second line?
Yes, it's not my direct uncle like my mom's brother or something, but second line uncle, yeah. And he's based in Bangalore in India. And so it's kind of he's got his kids now. I think one of them is actually he's started from Yale, and then he's also joined a PE firm, I think VC firm in California. So it's like his dad. And he's a really very humble guy, and I sent his LinkedIn. He's a very nice guy, very nice, very very interesting guy. And that company, what they invested in, that company have raised 1.1 billion so far in capital, and these guys have invested, I don't know how much they invested in 2012 when the company started. 2013 they invested in, and they had 20% of the business at recently, and they've sold 10% of it, which I would expect they would have got 250-300 million easily out of the transaction. And they were the early investors, and now Alibaba Group is also there. It's like Okada of India. So basically, it's like India is like much bigger population, right? As you can imagine. So it's like that huge. It's called BigBasket.com. You can look at it as well.
Big Basket.
Big Basket. Did I not send that to you, or maybe I will send you the information?
I didn't ring the bell, but recall the name. But I'll check that out.
Yeah. So I think
like an Alibaba in India,
yeah, Alibaba Group has invested in that recently in a series.
Invested in Big Basket,
basically, Big Basket has a Series F funding. So obviously, what, they made a good buck of it, and obviously, they made a good investment, I would say. So because not every investment is like that, right? I think.
No.
So it's just like. Okay. I think it's maybe I just So I think things are really staying by. I think at the end of the day, we need to get interesting things going on, right? So I'll forward that email to you as well, so you can look it up.
Yeah.
And
Okay, well, let's talk in the next, sounds like maybe Today's Wednesday, so it's probably you need to speak to Deepak, yeah?
Yeah, Deepak, I already sent a note to him. Obviously, I'll copy you again, and then I'll get a call arranged with you and Deepak, and then probably we'll see a best way to take it forward, and then we can have a commercial terms, and obviously we can take it that way. And I'm sure in the meantime, obviously we keep the conversations going, and of course I'm cautious of if you have. I'm really keen to understand also from you that maybe drop a note or something when you have time. How do you think the current product could be useful in the areas where you're looking at? That way, at least we understand what is it something that we can able to go to that market right now?
Yeah, because you were saying you're only accessing Twitter and Facebook at the moment. Is that right? You got those two accesses.
Correct. Yeah, those two being the obviously you can imagine those two are kind of very interesting ones, right? And obviously those are more commonly used platforms now.
Quite dominant.
And obviously that is that opens up doors for many possibilities, right? And so that is where we are right now.
Okay. We'll do. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, well, let's set up. We'll talk in the next days or maybe early part of next week with Deepak. Yeah.
Sure, definitely. I'll get the conversation going on, and also, sure. I think I just keep the invitations open for you. Feel free to join anytime if you want.
Yeah,
great. And so at least you'll get to see, and this will be kind of now that the introductions and everything is over. Now most of the time the meetings are talking about the Tuesday meetings is all about the sales pipeline, right? It's completely about the 20 deals what we have right now. How do we get there? How do we close it? And obviously that's what is happening Tuesdays, and also Fridays is about more about what are the different things what we're doing right now. How do we apply different use cases like you mentioned you were there last time, right? And because it's very difficult to have all the time different meetings, right? It's kind of that meeting. And obviously so that everyone can be participating, and also they can talk about their own areas of what they've been doing. Few quick updates, right? Everyone feels responsible, and everyone can have cool.
Okay, cool. Good.
Thank you, Simon. And sure, definitely I'll keep you posted, and also let me know if anything information. And thank you very much, Simon. Take care now.
Good talking.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good one.